Hello and welcome to the first inaugural episode, well, not the first inaugural, but the inaugural and also the first episode of The Drive Home, a new podcast that I'm starting here now today, where I drive home from the movies and talk about the movies that I just watched, which in this episode is going to be Godzilla, King of the Monsters, the second Godzilla movie, but like the third one of the monster verse that Legendary Pictures is running. So I don't know how this is going to work out exactly. I've never done this kind of thing before. This is going to be an exclusive Patreon only podcast that I do, but this first episode is going to be available on the YouTube channel and on the regular Patreon feed. So people will be able to hear it first. So yeah, I'm driving in my car home while I do this. I got my phone that I'm recording it on, so it's going to be very rudimentary. It's not going to sound great. In fact, I'm sure it'll sound garbage, actually. And I just don't know if it's going to work out. This is an experiment, but I want to add a new Patreon tier. I think this one's going to be a $3 one. I don't want to bump anyone out of the $5 tier, but so I'm not gonna do that, and I don't want it to be any more expensive. So I think $3 a month is a good pricing point. I literally came up with this idea in the car. I was watching the movie and I was like, "Ooh, I want to talk about this," and I thought to do it in the car because I've been wanting to add more Patreon tiers and just trying to figure out how to do that. So I just watched the movie Godzilla, King of the Monsters. I literally just left the theater, and as I'm saying, I'm driving home. This episode is probably going to be around half an hour long. This whole series is probably going to be around that long, because that's about how long it'll take me to drive home, and that's kind of the idea of the show and the title and everything. So how are you? I'll talk about the movie. I think first I'm going to talk briefly about overall my thoughts and everything, and then I'll get deeper into the episode. So it's going to be spoiler-free at first, and then I'll let you know when the spoilers come in. But I just saw the movie. I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. In fact, I loved it. It's a lot better than I think the first Godzilla movie, but it was not quite as good as Kong Skull Island, which was the second movie in the MonsterVerse. I think that's what it's called. I think that's what people are calling it, the MonsterVerse. Yeah, I thought I wasn't crazy about the first Godzilla. I won't say the original. I thought it was a little bit. It just lacked a lot of what I wanted out of a Godzilla movie, which was, I don't know, there wasn't that much Godzilla in it. This movie, there was a lot of Godzilla and other monsters in it, but still not as there. Well, it's weird because there's a lot of scenes where there's no monsters in it for a while, which, you know, of course you're gonna have that. It can't just be all monsters all the time. I understand that, but you know, it's weird. It's weird to talk about, especially without the spoiler deep dive. But I thought I thought what they did with the monsters was awesome. Every time they were on screen, it was great. The fight scenes were incredible. Sometimes a little hard to follow what was going on, but I think that was mostly the point in a lot of cases. So I'm not saying it was a bad thing. I'm getting on the expressway now, so if things are different sounding, if they're louder or whatever, that's why. But anyway, I thought the human characters were pretty cool. Cool might not be the right word, but like well developed. There were earlier reviews of this movie that talked about how that was the movie's weakest point was the human element, the human characters. And I understand where they're coming from, but I kind of disagree with it. Like, I thought they were all pretty good. I didn't like a lot of the acting decisions that were made. I wonder how much of that was in the directing. There were definitely some just line reads, particularly in terms of like who ended up being kind of the main character was like the husband of the family. I can't remember. His name was Mark, but I can't remember the actor's name. I'm pretty sure he's Bomb Guy from Grey's Anatomy, season 2. There's a character who was like part of the bomb squad who comes in, and then no spoilers or anything, but he's called Bomb Guy because bomb squad things. And I'm pretty sure it's the same actor. It looks like him. And he was kind of the main character. Initially, I thought he was supposed to be kind of like a secondary character, one of the main characters, but not the main character. And then I think as the movie went on, it just became more and more clear that I think they were trying to tell us that he was the main character. And I didn't love that because I didn't like... He was like my least favorite of the humans. But whatever. What are you going to do? So, yeah, I enjoyed the movie a lot. I'm really excited about where they go next. And without further ado, I think we're going to slip into spoiler zone. And I'm going to, like, kind of go through what happens in the movie. So, enjoy that. And if you're not going to listen to that for some reason, then goodbye. Okay, hello. So, the movie starts with the... kind of the ending of the original, I mean, again, not original, but Godzilla, the movie from 2014. It actually starts in 2014, which is cool. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Avengers Endgame with going back to things that we've seen before and being like, here's this time and this thing, which is cool. And that was, so it was the destruction of San Francisco on the part of Godzilla the monster, and also the Mutos, which we didn't see, but we did see Godzilla. And there's this family, what are they called? Not the Millers, but it's something like that. Oh man, Hunters or something? I can't remember. But the family is Mark, the husband, there's the wife, Emma, and they have a daughter named Madison, who's Millie Bobby Brown she's 11 from Stranger Things. And she's the daughter, and the mother is played by Vera Farmiga, who's great, and I love seeing her whenever she's around. I'm like, oh hey. And so they're looking for their son, whose name I can't remember right now. It's something really generic, I think, like Peter or whatever. And they never find him. And spoilers for the rest of the movie, he doesn't show up again. I was kind of expecting him to. I was kind of expecting him to be not dead the whole time, but I don't think that they ever did that. He was just dead. So he died, and then the movie skips forward 5 years to the present, where the world's kind of adjusting to the fact that there's Titans. I initially thought, seeing the trailers and everything, that this was going to be a post-Titan world. Titans, by the way, are the name of the giant monsters. Like they were going to be all around, all over the place, but that was not the case. Instead, they were just kind of... They knew about some of the monsters, but not all of them. And Millie Bobby Brown and Vera Farmiga, Madison and Emma, mother-daughter, are now living... They're apart from Dad. Dad is left, but they're living by themselves. Well, not by themselves. They're out in the forests of, I believe it's I think it's Brazil, so South America. And they're at the monarch site of... one Mothra, which you might recognize from previous Godzilla movies in the past. And they are monitoring it's kind of like a nest, an egg kind of thing. They're monitoring it, and the movie starts with it waking up. I say starts, obviously we're in the movie now. But Mothra wakes up, and they are at first trying to communicate with it in a rudimentary sense. Emma has built a Orca, is what it's called, and it's a machine that can kind of analyze the biometric sounds that the Titans are producing and then kind of recreate them in a sense. And in that way, not communicate with them in terms of like, hey, let's talk to these monsters, but rather kind of input moods and things into them, which is... It's a little bit loose, I think, how the movie portrays how that works. I don't think you could go to wolves and make wolf noises and make them do things, but this movie kind of a little bit does that, but very lightly. So I don't want to give the wrong impression if you haven't seen it or anything. Although, why are you listening to this if you haven't seen the movie? I don't know. It's wacky. But I'm going to get a drink of water, so hold on 1 second. Thanks for bearing with me for that long. I cut that out, so it's not that long at all. So Mothra awakens and hatches, and Emma tries to use her Orca to calm it down, which works. By the way, so the thing hatches, and Monarch has obviously put measures in place to correct it, but as soon as Mothra wakes up, which is, by the way, in its larva stage, this is one of my recurring peeves about the Mothra movies, is she always starts as a larva and takes a long time to become the moth, which is true in this movie as well. So, but anyway, they have these things that will keep her in check. You know, they'll be like, there's like these, I don't know exactly how it works. It's like beams of laser energy or something. Excuse me. Ooh. And those immediately fail, and somebody makes a point about, like, I think it's somebody else doing this. So somebody has come in and is turning off the defenses for Mothra. And so Mothra escapes, kind of, and starts, like, killing people. Like, there are armed guards that are, like, shooting at her with electrical blasts in their guns, tasering her, or whatever. She's this giant moth, and they're tasering her. And she kills them. She's, like, shooting them with blasts of webbing and everything, which is funny. And so she escapes, and then in order to stop her, Emma jumps in and uses her orca to calm it down, and it works. She's calm. But then this insurgent group comes in. These, like, terrorists, you would think. They're bad guys. They come in, they kill all the Monarch people, and Emma and Madison, I don't know why Madison is allowed down there, but she is. She's a child, but she's allowed down there. The bad guys come in and leave them, well, because Madison and Emma are in the cage with Mothra, and they've locked themselves in. And it's the bad guys are led by Charles Dance, Tywin Lannister himself, he's so good. He's one of my favorite parts of this movie, even though he's very little screen time. So they show up, and it kind of cuts there. We don't know what's going on, and I can't exactly remember where it cuts to next. I find that whenever I watch movies, by the way, I kind of lose what's happened almost immediately. I still know where it's going and what the emotional beats are, so I know why they are where they are, but I don't remember the exact flow of, like, how did they get to this part. I believe we next go to Monarch, and they're, like, Dr. Serizawa. Oh, so there's a Senate meeting with Monarch, and I can't remember if that's now or later. I believe what happens next is we meet Thomas Middleditch, and he plays a Monarch scientist. I don't think they definitely say what his role in the movie is, but I don't remember. But Thomas Middleditch from Silicon Valley, he's again one of my favorite parts. He's very funny. He's the comic relief. And we also meet Dr. Serizawa, who we knew from the first movie, and he's from the original. That character is Dr. Serizawa, but in that one he dies. So keep that in the back of your mind. And we also meet Sally Hawkins. I can't remember her character's name. Diana someone? I don't remember. But we've met them from the first two, but Thomas Middleditch is new. And they're in a Senate hearing about Monarch because people believe that Monarch should kill all of the... Some people believe that Monarch should kill all the monsters, the Titans, and other people believe that it should be regulated. Monarch should be like a government institution, which apparently it isn't, which is weird to me, especially because they seem to have a military force, and I don't know how that happens. And they seem to have quite the budget for a non-government regulated thing. Anyway, that's beside the point. So there's the Senate hearing, and then they have to leave. There's this really funny scene where Thomas Middleditch is like, I have to run, but before we go, I'm gonna put on this video, which is like how the Titans reproduce. I believe this is the version that has the genitals blurred, but if not, there's a number you can call for complaints. And then it shows, as he's leaving, it shows a screen of the Mutos fighting, or it's the two Mutos who in the first movie were like a husband and wife pairing, if you will. There was a male and female, and they were like lovers. They were mates, and it blurs out their heads, like their faces areas. So it's kind of like implied that those were their genitals, which is it was a very funny joke. I really laughed really hard at that in the movie in the theater. So then they go. The three of them actually get on a big ship and fly over somewhere in the world to meet Mark, the husband, who's now isolated. He's alone, and he's living with the wolves. He's studying them. I guess he's a animal studier. I don't know what the term for that is, but he studies the behavioral patterns of animals, which is why he's part of the movie. And he says, okay, so here's the story, Mark. Oh, hi, Mark. Here's the haha, what a story, Mark. Wow, this movie's actually The Room, is what's the true story behind it all. But no, they tell him that Emma and Madison have been taken, and they have the orca, and we don't know why. So they need to go and figure it out. They need to go and find her, and they think that they're going to... I think they're going to Antarctica. I believe that's the movement of the story. And so they all head there. Meanwhile, we get to learn that Mark is very angry at the Titans, especially because they murdered his son. He says that they killed my boy, which I thought was a weird choice, but what can you do? And then after that happens, they go to Antarctica, and he's just mad. And they go underwater. They're like kind of, what are they doing? They go to, is this where they go to the Godzilla base? Yeah, they go to like this Godzilla tracking Monarch station, where it's like a floating structure out in the water. Again, to relate it back to Marvel movies, it's a lot like in Civil War. They have like the prison for heroes, I guess, in the middle of the ocean that Tony Stark builds or something. Man, those movies are weird. Anyway, this movie's weird too. So, they hear about... I think Godzilla's around at this point. They don't know exactly where he is, but they kind of start detecting him. They're like, this is a tracking station for Godzilla. It was based on some of Emma's models they're able to get the biometric readings again and detect where Godzilla is and how he's doing, how he's feeling. So that is what they are... I think they're trying to find Godzilla. He shows up, and there's this really weird... So, Mark hates Godzilla, wants him dead. That's his philosophy because of the whole his son dying thing. You understand. And they are like... They have... So Godzilla shows up, and in a defensive maneuver, they aim their guns at it, and then Mark is like, okay, Godzilla's going to attack us, and I want him dead as much as anyone does. But unless you think this is a fight you can win, you better put your guns down. And it's a little just the whole reading on how the monsters feel about humans and understand humans is a little cartoonish to me. They seem to have like an understanding of how humans behave and their motivations and everything, because they put the weapons down, and Godzilla shouldn't know what a gun is. It shouldn't know that, like, aiming these, like, little barrels at it is dangerous, especially because these things haven't fired at him yet. But whatever, he knows. He's aware. So that's ridiculous. But he gets them to lower the guns, and then he's like, we have to lower our shields. By the way, when Godzilla attacked, they, like, closed the windows so that there's blast shields almost, and you can't see outside. And he's like, we have to open the shields. We have to lower them because we can't let Godzilla know that we're a threat. He has to think that we're allies. Again, Godzilla shouldn't know what humans are or care about them. He should just see this big structure and be like, that's a thing. I'm going to ignore it. But whatever, Godzilla knows. And so they open the windows, and Godzilla, like, looks at them, and Mark walks up to the windows, and there's this, like, scene where it's like, he can see us or whatever, and everyone's tense, but... he's also emitting this pulse, which is, they describe it as an intimidation tactic. Like he's glowing his lights on his back, and it's supposed to be an intimidation tactic, which I guess is supposed to be scary for other creatures. Kind of like how gorillas will beat their chest, which Godzilla and gorilla are very similar names, so that's funny. Then what happens? There's a jump scare where Godzilla kind of vanishes because you can't see outside when his lights aren't on, and then they turn on and he's like closer and closer, but then they're like, where is he? And then he like roars and flies right across the screen right in front of it, which is a little silly, but whatever. Then they have to go to Antarctica. I don't remember the exact movements of the story, but I think this is about where it is. Meanwhile, in Antarctica, not Monarch, but the bad guys, Charles Dance and what's her name, they get there. No, I'm forgetting a part. So they end up getting in communication with... No, is that after? It's after. Okay, it's after. They get to Antarctica. The bad guys do. Charles Dance and his team, along with Emma and Madison. We have not seen them since they left, since they disappeared. And that's strange, but whatever. So they get there and they kill all the Monarch people who were there. They're at another Monarch outpost. This is where Monster Zero is being held. We don't know about Monster Zero yet, but it's King Ghidorah. It's got 3 heads and it flies, and we don't know. It's sealed in ice. So they kill the people and they start getting it ready, and Emma starts the biometric reading process. I don't know if I'm using the term biometric reading correctly, but that's what she's doing. She's getting that ready, and that's loading. Then they're on their way. The Monarch is on the way, and they end up getting there about the same time. Well, a little later, but about the same time that they want to release Ghidorah. I think they announce... Okay, so they do announce that Tywin Lannister, Charles Dance's character, wants to preserve the natural order, and so he's trying to release the Titans. I think that's what they say his motivation is. He wants to release the Titans because it's the natural order. And we're confused about that for a little bit. We don't know what that means. That's a little silly, a little stupid. I don't know why he'd want to do that. We find out a little later. We get more of a clarification on that. But it seems that Emma and Madison have been taken by them because they can use the Orca and communicate with the Titans. That seems to be what's going on. So they want to save Emma and Madison and get the Orca so that they don't have the bad guys using it. Obviously, we don't want bad guys talking to Titans. No one wants that. And then they get there and they're like, we have to save... So there's this thing where the military guys, part of branch of Monarch, is going down and they're like shooting Tywin Lannister's men and getting in there. But then Monarch is like, oh, screw this, I'm gonna go. So he grabs a gun and he goes around the back way, I guess, and gets right in front of King Ghidorah's like ice wall, which you see in the trailer, on like this bridge that's crossing in front of it, at the same time that Emma and Madison are crossing in front of it as well. And they all just meet at the same time. Why Mark, this dude who's not a military guy in any way, I think, I'm pretty sure, why he's able to get there, sneak in through the back while the army had to go through the front and blast their way in is beyond me, but whatever. And they have the showdown, and Mark is like, all right, I'm here to save you, come with me. And Charles Dance is like, do not do it, in his stern voice. And Emma does not, Madison is going to step forward first, but then Emma is like, don't, and she steps back. So they seem to be like on Tywin Lannister's side. And this is where the movie starts to lose me a little bit, because we have not seen what Emma and Madison are up to since they were apprehended by Charles Dance's character. But we're led to believe now that they are on the same side, and that's confusing. And it gets even more confusing because Emma, the mother, Vera Farmiga, picks up the detonator that exists now. I don't know if this was set up, I don't remember. But she presses it, and the ice wall shatters open, and she's like, run! And then everybody runs, and King Ghidorah is freed, but is still, I guess, unconscious, like knocked out for ice reasons. It's very Captain America, again, Avengers movies. And that's strange. Why she did that. Why did she do that? We don't know. And then there's this huge showdown where everyone's trying to run away from the destruction of the outpost and get onto their ships. Monarch, in their airship, there's something wrong with it. Like, it's stuck on the ground. One of the engines won't start, while the bad guys are able to fly away. And as they're leaving, Emma presses the Orca button and awakens Ghidorah. And Ghidorah comes up out of this pit that's in the ground now from where the station used to be. And there's this really cool sequence of Ghidorah, Monster Zero, waking up and having 3 heads, and it's cool and crazy, and he can shoot electricity. That's a lot of fun. And it's going after it's so cartoonish. This is what I mean. It's very cartoonish. I thought this movie would be a lot more gritty than it ended up being, which I enjoyed how cartoonish it was, but it's worth pointing out. So it's attacking, and it's going after the ship on the ground that can't get away. And Madison grabs the Orca and reprograms it to call for Ghidorah, and it's like, come after us instead. So Ghidorah ignores the ship on the ground and goes after the ship that's flying away. I keep saying ship. I'm sure it's like a plane or a chopper or whatever. I don't know. And you're like, oh, okay, so she just made a sound and now it's going after the thing that the sound's making. That's fine. But then Emma stops it from happening and takes the Orca and then reprograms it again, and then it presses an activate button, and then Ghidorah straight up is just like, oh, all right, never mind, and then goes back down to the thing on the ground. It just ignores the sound it was hearing. So I don't know if it was telling it to hey, go back to what you were doing, or if it was just stopping the sound. But even if it were stopping the sound, Ghidorah would still not care about the ship on the ground. It would still go after the ship that's flying, even if it wasn't making those sounds. But whatever, it's weird, but I'm fine with it. So it's about to destroy them. And by the way, this is a thing that happens millions of times in the movie, is the thing, they're about to get destroyed when something else shows up, another Titan or whatever, and stops them. It happened with Mothra at first. They were like, oh, it's about to destroy us, but then they were able to turn the Orca on, even though it was destroying people immediately before. It suddenly is taking its time with these guys. So that's what's going on. And then Godzilla shows up. Godzilla, who's been absent this whole movie, or we've seen him, but like hasn't really had a chance to shine yet. Godzilla shows up and attacks Ghidorah, and it's this cool fight scene where they're both blasting each other with energy, either electric or nuclear blasts, or whatever his atomic breath is, you know. And I can't remember exactly what happens from here, but, Ghidorah flies away straight up. It's just like, yeah, I'm out of here. So he goes. Oh, there's also a weird thing where Godzilla is under the ice at first. Like, he shows up and you can see his light underneath the thing and underneath the ice, and then he like breaks through it from the top, and then it cuts away as he's rising out. It cuts away to something else, and then it cuts back in, and he's standing on the ice that he had to have just destroyed the entire thing by now. Like, and how can it support him at this point? It's a little weird, but again, I'm fine with it. So then they have a fight, and then Ghidorah flies away, and I believe the Monarch people are able to escape at this point. I think they just go off. And then, so there's, they determine that, Monster Zero goes off and hides in this hurricane, this like storm, this giant tropical storm that's going on. And they're like, we can't find him. We think he's nesting in that hurricane over there. And also, the bad guys, Tywin Lannister and everyone, is going to Brazil. No, not Brazil. Wait, was it Brazil? Okay, something's happening in Brazil. I believe they're going to Brazil now at this point. Yes. So then that means that the movie started in Africa, not South America. Sorry, everybody. I heartily apologize. But now they're going to Brazil, and that is where Rodan is, in a volcano. And they're going there, presumably to wake up Rodan. And then we're still like, well, what was going on with Emma and Madison? Why were they seeming to be on Tywin Lannister's side? Charles Dance, who, again, I have no idea what this character's name is, so #don't at me. By the way, in my driving, I did take a wrong turn on the expressway, so it's going to be a little bit longer than the predetermined half an hour, but I am now on the right track, so it won't be too much longer now. Sorry. So then they get a call from Emma, and she's like, hey, what's up? Listen, Madison's fine. We're both fine. Everyone's normal. I'm a little bit crazy, though, and here's why. Because I'm now on Charles Dance's side. She calls him by name. She calls him Charles Dance. I thought that was weird, but it was a brave choice. She says, I think that the human race is a disease and is suddenly going, like, we are the extinction that we've always feared was coming to Earth and was going to kill us all. It's us. We're doing it to ourselves. War and pollution and climate change and everything. Not to get political, but all that is destroying the planet. And the Titans are the cure for that. This is the speech in the trailer that we've seen where she's like every infection, the human race has unleashed a cure to fight the infection, which is the Titans are that cure. So they're gonna wipe out a bunch of humans. It's very, again, Avengers, it's very Thanos' plan to wipe out a bunch of humans so there's no overpopulation. But also, wherever this is such a weird plot point, wherever the Titans go and cause destruction, life soon follows afterwards, and it shows a bunch of scenes of like plant life growing and spontaneous, like coming up and everything. Apparently, the radiation that the Titans produce, which all Titans produce radiation, even though I thought Godzilla was singular, it turns out he is not. All the Titans are radioactive. Wherever they go, they create life behind them, which is a little goofy, but fine. That's the narrative of the movie. So they want to have this great awakening where they wake up one after the other Titans, and they will have like their spars, and then maybe they'll destroy them. But they also think that the Titans are the original first gods of the world, and there was a time where Titan and human coexisted, where the two races lived harmoniously, which sounds ridiculous to us that would be the case, but they believe that is true. The bad guys believe that is true. Emma believes that now. Even though, so all of this is character development that happened off screen. She just shows up and tells us that she believes that now. Apparently Charles Dance told her all these things and she bought into it. She definitely didn't think this way at the beginning of the movie, I think. It's not really implied that they're working together from the beginning or anything. I think they just meet and then team up because she agrees with him. I don't know. It's weird. So that's the natural order that Tywin Lannister wants to bring about. And obviously Mark is upset by this, who now seems to be the hero of the story, where Emma is now the bad guy, which I don't love that twist, but whatever. And I'm going to get another drink. Hold on. What happens next? Now, then they go to Brazil. They get there. I went to the bathroom after that teleconference was over, so I don't know exactly how things went down, but next Monarch is in Brazil. They're evacuating the city that they're in, and the Orca is used to release Rodan, who's awesome, by the way. He's so damn cool. He's so cool. I love Rodan. I love Rodan in this movie. I love him in all movies. He's one of my favorite Titans. He's great. He's cool. And he's like on fire for a while in this movie because he came out of a lava volcano thing. And he like destroys a bunch of things. And Monarch is like, oh no, this is bad. I don't like what's happening here because obviously Rodan is gonna kill a bunch of people unless we lure him over to Monster Zero, who's nearby, who's also coming to Brazil because of the everyone seems to be converging on Brazil at this point, except Godzilla. I don't think he makes an appearance, unless I'm mistaken. So I am mistaken. He shows up later. Anyway, spoilers. So so there's the main Monarch ship, which has all our main characters in it, and then there's like a bunch of fighter jets who are following behind the Monarch ship, and they are trying to lure Rodan to King Ghidorah, Monster Zero, so that they can have this big fight, and hopefully one of them will die. So they do that, and Rodan is picking off one by one all these fighter jets and getting closer and closer to the main one. It's really cool. It's one of my favorite sequences, the Rodan chase. And eventually Rodan kills all of the jet pilots until it's only the main Monarch ship left. And then they fly right into the storm that is King Ghidorah, and there's this, it's not a jump scare exactly, but it's this moment where they're like flying into the storm, it's all dark, and then Ghidorah shows up and they're like, oh damn, it's this really cool shot. You see it in the trailers where he's like flipping out his wings. He's flipping out his wings, man! And there's lightning going up behind him. It's really cool. But then I was immediately thinking like, well, this isn't much better. They were running away from Rodan, and now they got this thing to deal with, and they dive down, and then they're like, oh god, this is happening. And then, so while they're doing that, I guess there's like another airship, a chopper that is evacuating the city from Rodan's destruction, because apparently like you see the scene of the trailer where he's like flying over a city and destroying it, which is something that he can do. That's part of his power set. But while it does destroy the city, it's apparently survivable because it just sends people flying a la tornado, but they're alive unless they land too hard on things. There's a scene where like some of the army guys, the military, are like grabbing onto like this kid who is flying through the air, and he like grabs him last minute, and he's like, hold on, like one of those things, like a tornado, like a Twister scene, which is a little cartoonish and silly, but it's fine. So they're evacuating people, and meanwhile, the whole Rodan chase is happening. Then Rodan and Mothra fight. It's really cool, and Rodan is sent into the water. He's like, I guess he loses, and King Ghidorah is there. And while that's going on, the airship that was evacuating people gets to the main ship, and apparently they have a system in place to board mid-air, but that's broken and faulty. One of the hangar doors won't open, and you have to like fly up into it. So Mark shows up. He's like, we have to do it manually. We have to go. And he shows up and he like drops a tank or something through the doors, so they break open. But then the airship has to like crash land up into the ship, the main ship, the Monarch ship. It's a very silly sequence, but I absolutely loved it. It was really cool. By the way, again, I want to point out that I don't know if this episode will be listenable because I'm driving in the car. Anyway, the airship comes up and stops it crashes upward into the ship and then has to like land, and a lot of destruction is happening while they do this, and it's a lot of fun. And then as soon as that ship gets into the other ship, you understand, this all makes perfect sense. They like look out the window and they're like, we did it, out the big hangar doors that were previously destroyed. And they're like, oh, is that a King Ghidorah I see? Because King Ghidorah is flying directly at them, like about to like attack them for some reason. Again, it's unclear why Ghidorah cares about this airship, but it does. It does. So they go, they're like, oh no. But then Godzilla shows up again and attacks King Ghidorah, and they have another fight. And while they're fighting, the U.S. Army shows up and says, and this is really cool for those of us who are OG Godzilla fans and watched the original movie, guess what, bros? We are pulling another Avengers reference, and we're going to send a bomb your way to destroy it, even though you're there. So get out. We're going to send a bomb, a missile, that is called an oxygen destroyer. It's what Serizawa was developed and used in the original movie to kill Godzilla. Spoilers. And we have one of those now. We've been developing it, and we're going to destroy it. We're going to deploy it. And everyone's like, no, don't do that, because if it kills Godzilla, then we'll have nothing to fight the other monsters with, the other Titans. But they're like, yeah, whatever, bruh. Just get out. Hashtag Jordan Peele's get out. And we're going to blow up the oxygen destroyer. So that happens. They send the missile in. Ghidorah and Godzilla are fighting. The oxygen destroyer shows up and obliterates everything. There's like a shot of all of the ocean life being destroyed, all the fish dying and everything, and that's very sad. It reminds me of Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, when the volcano erupts and kills all the dinosaurs, and you're like, these things are scary and can kill us, but it's sad. And that's kind of like what this is. It's just like Jurassic World: Lost Kingdom. No, it isn't. But then they're all sad about that, and then Ghidorah shows up, and they're like, oh no, it didn't work. He's still alive. But also, what's up? Godzilla is still alive too, but barely. He's hanging in there, so we gotta follow him. We gotta find him. And again, I'm trying to remember the exact movements of this movie. I believe, so while that's going on, the bad guys, Tywin Lannister, go to Boston for some reason. I think they want... They hear that Boston's being evacuated and Fenway Park is being used to evacuate people, so they're like, we can go to... So I think they're at Boston for some reason, but Emma wants to... So here's what's going on. All of the Titans are waking up now that Ghidorah is awake, and he seems to be like staking his claim as king of the monsters. He's hashtag king of the monsters. He's like he's waking all of the monsters, the Titans. And it's like, you see all these not nudes, hashtag no nudes. A lot of hashtags in this episode. Hashtag feminism. You see a lot of news reports about multiple Titans waking up all over the world, and you see some really cool ones, like this weird spider crab thing, which is awesome, and there's this giant woolly mammoth that kind of has long gorilla-like arms, which is, again, awesome. But we see all these things in such... and there's another Muto. It looks just like the Muto from the first one. I mean, a little different. Like, its design is a little different, but it looks like it's the same species. And that's what I wanted to see more of. I wanted to see more like destruction instead of just like, hey, these things exist and we see shots of them. And I'm sure some of them are references to other Godzilla movies. I have not yet seen all of the other Godzilla movies, so I don't know. But that is what's going on there. And Emma is upset and Madison's upset, and they're yelling at each other. They're like, why are all of these waking up? I thought that they were supposed to be one at a time. We were supposed to do this as one long wave thing instead of one immediate wave thing. But it turns out that it's King Ghidorah doing it, waking them up, not her. So, hashtag not my fault. There's another hashtag for you. And that is a problem for basically everyone. I guess they thought that they could manage wakening one thing up at a time, but they did King Ghidorah first for some reason instead of last. Meanwhile, Mothra has become a cocoon, and that's going on. Meanwhile, the human... Well, I'm trying to think. What's the order of events here? At one point... So, after this, they discover that Fenway Park is... it's a safe haven. All the people are evacuating there. So for some reason, Emma's idea is, okay, so Fenway Park is where people are going to be evacuated. There's airships landing and picking people up and flying out. So what we need to do is we need to go there to Fenway Park, hook up the Orca to the speaker systems there. Somehow that will broadcast to the entire world. Oh, I guess maybe there's a thing where Fenway Park is where the... And we're back. Got a little cut off there. Not sure exactly where I was. I think I was talking about how they're using Fenway Park as the spearhead, so I think there's like a speaker system throughout the whole world or something where they're telling people to go there and how to evacuate. I don't know exactly, but Emma wants to take the Orca there, plug it into the speaker systems, and then broadcast a calling to Boston to all the Titans, especially King Ghidorah, where they can then, she's like, I don't know, figure out what to do and how to stop it. Seems a little silly. I don't think that's the best course of option, but that's what she's going with. Madison overhears this. She decides to go rogue. She takes because Charles Dance doesn't want to. He's like, no, that's a bad idea. Because it is. It's a bad idea. But Madison goes rogue. She's like, I'm going to do this. She takes the Orca. She sneaks out. They're already in Boston, which is lucky. So she goes to Fenway Park, and she hooks up the Orca and calls everyone there. The evacuation, I guess, has ended because people are there at first, but then they're gone by the time the King Ghidorah shows up. And while all this is going on, I think I'm jumping around a little bit because, again, I don't remember the exact movements of the story, but what's-her-face? No, Godzilla, so they track Godzilla. The Monarch people are doing this. Oh, by the way, Sally Hawkins' character dies. She's, killed, I think, in the Antarctic sequence. I forgot about that. And then they're like, okay, so Godzilla is currently somewhere underwater. We're not sure where we need to track him. So they track him and they follow him to this. Mothra shows up and kind of helps them lead them to Godzilla, I guess. Because Mothra shows up and is a moth again. Now, finally. And that's good. And she's good. She's she's the queen of the monsters, they call her. And they also say that she kind of has a symbiotic relationship with Godzilla. They're like king and queen together. But also, this was a larva at first, so it's unclear as to when there was another Mothra or how, but it's fine. So Mothra shows up and kind of leads them to Godzilla, and then they find him. They find this underground Atlantis-like structure. It's older than Egyptian, was what they say. It reminds me of Atlantis because it's underwater. And it's this civilization. There's these statues, and they see all these signs on the wall and markings and images of Godzilla and humans worshiping Godzilla and bowing down to him, the coexistence that they talked about. And they eventually get into the middle of it where they find Godzilla and he's resting. And apparently this place is super radiation heavy, and that's where he's getting his health back. And they're like, okay, well, we need to speed this process along because it could take years. This is how Godzilla has been surviving this whole time, by the way. That's important. And they're hanging out. And then they go into it, and they're like, okay, so it's super radioactive, we can't go in there, so we need to launch a nuclear missile at Godzilla, and that will heal him somehow. The nuclear energy, the atomic energy will heal him. But they can't launch it because their weapon system was destroyed in one of the recent attacks. So they have to do the thing where it's we have to do it manually. One of us has to go in there. So Dr. Serizawa, Ken Watanabe from the first movie, and Dr. Serizawa from the original, has to go and do it manually, drop it off. So he goes and sacrifices himself. He gets to, while it's going off, the timer's going off, he gets to reach out and touch Godzilla's snoot, which is a really moving sequence. But it's a little... it's kind of touching too, because in the original movie, Dr. Serizawa, I think he survived the movie, but he's the one who set off the oxygen destroyer, which I think he died. He might have died. I don't remember. Set off the oxygen destroyer to kill Godzilla, or he is the one who developed it. I think actually he might not have wanted to set it off. I think he was against it, but maybe he did. I don't remember. It's been a while. But in this movie, the action destroyer, he didn't make it. Somebody else did and is used, and he has to sacrifice himself, reversing those effects. He has to set off the thing. He does that. It kind of makes Godzilla bigger, makes him stronger. So then he goes to Boston. Godzilla does, and they all get there at the same time. King Ghidorah does. There's this huge fight sequence. Mothra and Rodan show up. There's this huge fight sequence. The Monarch guys get there and try to find Millie Bobby Brown's character, Madison, who goes home. I guess they live in Boston, which I don't remember them setting that up. But she goes home, even though it's just a normal house, and she's almost destroyed. Like, the house is totally destroyed, and they find her later, and she's, like, in the rubble. She barely managed to survive, which I don't know why she decided to go there, but I guess where else would she go? Humans don't really have it well in these monster movies. Then, so, whoa, cat just ran out from me. I missed it, though. I mean, I didn't hit it. So then I'm getting to home, so I have to wrap this up. Rodan and Mothra fight. Mothra ends up stabbing Rodan and kind of killing him, sending him down into the debris. Then there's a wrap-up where everyone's happy and they escape. Because, Godzilla has been supercharging since the atomic thing. He keeps releasing these blasts. Oh, Vera Farmiga's character dies. Emma dies, chasing it away so that Godzilla can charge up and Ghidorah can leave him alone. And Ghidorah is killed by Godzilla's energy blasts and then establishes himself as king of the monsters. Emma is okay. Oh, they find her before, and then they all fly away. And I think that's the end of the movie, is they're, like, flying away. Godzilla is the king of the monsters. We don't see... Oh, Rodan's still alive, by the way. Rodan shows up, and he's like, I'm not dead. Mothra we don't see again, even though Mothra is alive, and that's confusing. But Godzilla's king of the monsters, and there's, like, an after-credit scene where one of the King Ghidorah heads is gotten by Charles Dance, who's still alive. I don't know how he survived, but that's the movie. And I think that's going to be it for me, because I'm home, and I'm going to go in to the house. So thanks for listening. Thanks for being a patron. If I think of anything else, I'll add to this file before I upload it. So I will see you guys later. Bye, everyone. Hi, it's me again. I'm back. It's the next day. I was just editing the last episode, and I realized that there is one very important thing that I did forget to mention, which is that they do some research on Ghidorah, and they find out that Ghidorah is an ancient alien who is from a different planet, which is why... So, by the way, it's storming now. I'm back in my car because it's the best place to do a little quick recording like this, and it's storming, so it probably sounds cool. But so Emma and Charles Dance and the bad guys are thinking that humans and Titans can coexist together. That's their motivation. And that's why they want the Titans to come back, because they think that's how life should be. But the reason that King Ghidorah was waking up all the other Titans and everything was terrible is because he's not part of the natural order of things. He is from a different planet. He's like a world eater, which is something that it's established in other movies, but in this movie that we learn that. So that's why King Ghidorah is so bad for everything. And I wanted to briefly talk about the ending because it felt a little rushed, I think. What happens is, so, as I say, Godzilla is supercharging because of the blasts, and while he's kind of waking up, they have time before it goes nuclear, and everyone's trying to get away, but then Emma is like, I'm gonna go and lure Ghidorah away from Godzilla so that Godzilla can recharge. And meanwhile, you guys go. So the ship takes off, and Madison's upset, and Mark is... I guess kind of indifferent. He doesn't really emote all that much, I think. Maybe I just forgot, but he seems very stoic about the whole thing, even though he's like, my ex-wife. And then, so she runs off and she's getting chased by Ghidorah, and then gets, she like gets thrown from her car, and Ghidorah's about to kill her, and then Godzilla shows up and looks like, I think, what Shin Godzilla looks like. I haven't seen that movie, so I don't know, but I've seen like images, and it kind of looks like that because he's red and glowing. And he is getting himself, he's emitting these energy blasts, and that has to be what kills Emma, because we do see her for a second and she's okay. Then there's these energy blasts, and then you don't really see what happens, and then it cuts back because like there's the humans reacting from far away, and they're like, whoa. Then it cuts back and we see Ghidorah's head, and you're like, oh no, he's alive, but it's like glowing, and then it's revealed that Godzilla is eating Ghidorah's head. Like one of his last heads is being eaten by Godzilla and like going down his throat, and he like pumps up his atomic breath and blasts it through Ghidorah's head, and it's pretty cool, but it's a little silly. I'm not it's hard to tell what I'm looking at. Also, there was a scene earlier in the movie where Ghidorah was established as having super quick regenerative properties. One of his heads got destroyed in the oxygen destroyer blast, but it grew back almost immediately. So that was why that's even more of a threat, because he can heal himself. So then Godzilla has killed him. Then finally all the Titans show up. I wish that more Titans had shown up during the fight, so it would have been like this huge battle instead of just 4 things. Again, as I say, Rodan reveals himself to be alive and then starts bowing down before Godzilla, and all of the other Titans do, so that firmly establishes him as king of the monsters. Then he roars, and that's the end of the movie. Then there's the post-credit scene where Charles Dance finds his head, one of King Ghidorah's heads again, and takes it. He says, "We'll take it." And I don't know which head that was supposed to be or how they got it, but whatever. So that is truly the end of the movie, and now I will wrap up. This has been The Drive Home. I'm going to try to get these done maybe once a week, but it might not be for current movies. It might be older movies that I've seen, or maybe even like TV shows. If I finish one, I'm going to talk about that. I'm not sure exactly how it'll work, but I definitely like the idea of talking while I drive home. So if you want to find me on Twitter, you can do that at Mr. spelled out the long way red 2342. That's at Mr. 2342. And this episode of The Drive Home is going to be available on the main feed. Well, it's a setup feed, so if you listen to that, this is one of those now. It's also going to be its own feed, and it's going to be on the YouTube. So everyone will be able to listen to this for free. But future episodes, you have to subscribe at $3. So do that, and I'll see you guys next week. I'm going to try to get these done maybe Sunday. I think that's a good time for them. So look forward to that, and I will see you later. Okay, well, that's it. Bye, everybody.